All right, so good old fork seals. I've been dreading doing this job for a long time. But to start off on this bike, on the Panigale, you need to remove the connector there because this is the Öhlins electronic suspension. On this blue nut, you need to loosen up the preload on it. With Ducati, you do have a special tool that you need in order to pop the cap there so you can see the little holes. So once you do that, you go ahead and push that up and you reveal a little nut there that needs to come out. You'll pull that whole top piece off, pull the spring out, and then I'll be able to move the whole fork assembly out to dump the oil, change the seal, and so on. So you're probably wondering why it's still on the bike. Well, I don't have a clamp or a fork holder, if you will. I'm using the bike as such. So once I'm done with that, I'll pop the nut on the top triple clamp, the clip on, and there's like 3 more bolts down there, and I'll be able to slide it on out. So that's where I'm at right now. So now that we have that off, I just got to remove this nut. I just got to screw it all the way up there off those threads, remove this piece right here, and then I'll be able to slide the spring out. Yeah. All right, so we've made it finally to the fork seal. So we got the dust cover off, and right here you see this little silver retaining ring. We just got to pull that out, and then we'll be able to pop the fork seal out here. So I may need to apply some heat and everything because this fork's been sitting outside and it's kind of cold, just to make it come out a little bit easier, and then we'll get the new one in. Also, there is a washer right underneath the seal, so you can clean that up and then get the new seal in. In order to get this fork seal to seat properly inside the fork tube, you gotta pick yourself up a fork seal driver. You can pick these up anywhere pretty cheap, and you just put it right on top of the fork seal and then properly seat it down into the tube. All right, so we're getting closer to getting this thing together, and I got some ghetto stuff going on here. Don't mind all that. But what you're seeing right here is some safety wire that's connected to the valve on the inside. So when I put the spring in, I can run this through the spring. And when I put the compression tool on, I did it like a do-it-yourself little thing. I'm gonna use some ratchet straps and then compress the spring down. And then I can grab this and just pull this valve up, and then that'll allow me to be able to put the nut and everything on it. So I already got the fluid in it. You gotta have the fork completely compressed, put in the correct amount of fluid there. And what I'm gonna use is this oil gap tool, and it will suck out the remaining fluid that you have in there. So if you have too much, it'll be at the proper level. So for the 1199 on these Öhlins forks, it's 155 millimeters is what the gap is gonna be set to. All right, again, don't mind the safety wire on there. I got ahead of myself, but we got the oil gap tool set in here, and we're gonna start pulling some of this fluid out. Oh, there we go. Just coming out. It's hard to do with one hand. Pull that out. Probably want to make sure that the fork is also standing up straight. And then you're gonna do it until you start to hear some air coming out, and that means you're at the, right there. And that means we're at the right level. In the next episode of Eric's Ghetto Garage, so we have a cheap spring compressor option here. I got this off Amazon, and it is used to compress the spring, and then you're able to access the nut and tighten it and loosen it and things like that. So for my specific fork, this does not work. It works on others, and I've watched some videos and stuff like that, and for mine, it just doesn't work the way that it's set up. So what I ended up doing was a do-it-yourself tool. I went to Home Depot and bought a piece of metal, and I did some cutting, which I completely suck at doing, so go ahead and talk about me. But it is what it is. I'm making it happen. So this will sit right on there just like that. I'll take a ratchet strap, wrap it through the bottom there, and wrap it over each side, compressing that spring down, and then I can pull the threads up and get the nut on it and do it that way. So when you don't have all the awesome tools, you kind of like think outside the box and just make it happen. So that's what we got going on. All right, so this is what I wanted to show you real quick, what the safety wire is for. Once the spring is compressed, I'll be able to pull the threads up and then, you know, put the nut and everything on, and then slide the tool out and then finish tightening everything up. Obviously, I'm gonna cut the safety wire off before I put the nut on and everything, but this is what we're working with. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the spring compressed down a little bit more. All right, so we are finally coming to a close on this fork. I still have to do the other side. I think you can get this job done in a day, probably even less, maybe a few hours, depending on how much time you devote to doing it and how mechanically inclined you are. It's fairly easy. It's easier than what I thought it was gonna be, because I know this job probably scares a lot of people, but hopefully me doing this and posting the stories and stuff for you guys, no matter what bike you have, will you know, give you some confidence and show you, you know, everything that you need and what you have to do. Basically save yourself anywhere from, I'd say $300 to $400. Could be more, could be less, but yeah. So what I'm gonna do now, oh, also you may want to put some tape on your preload nut just so the socket doesn't scratch it. What I'm gonna do now is take this bad boy, get it in there on that lower triple clamp. There's 3 bolts right there, route it up through the clip-on and a top triple clamp, and then I should be good to go and start on the other side. And one more thing before somebody says it. Yes, once I get the fork up through here and mounted, I will torque down the cap here to the proper torque specifications, and we'll be good to go on that, and then go ahead and get the cable there for the electronic suspension plugged in. All right, and the last thing you want to do once you get everything in, just want to make sure your measurements and your height and everything that you had set before was still the same. And then also return your preload back to what you had it set at as well.